It's a beautiful good afternoon and a warm welcome to today's program of The People's Verdict. Your host, I am Kaptula Afias, and we are glad that you could find time to join us. Starting slightly a bit late, we could say apologies for that. However, the show moves on. In the studio this afternoon, I am hosting Mr. Watson Lumpa, who is Indeni Board Chairperson. As professionally, he is an economist. He calls himself a street economist. He's going to talk more about that. Mr. Lumpa, good afternoon, and Mr. Lumba, good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, just for starters, before we get into the nitty-gritties of the program, who is Mr. Lumba?
I've been on this TV before, and I said who Mr. Lumba is.
Yeah, maybe just for the sake of this
professionally, I'm an accountant. I did accountancy and economics, so I trade in both. And like you said, I'm the current board chair for Indeni Energy, and I'm also a married man. First thing, I'm a Christian. Second, I'm a married man. Third, I'm a father of one. The rest we have to talk outside.
Oh yeah. No, thank you very much. Just moving on in terms of the economic situation in the country, we have seen that just a few days ago, we saw the central bank revise the reserve ratio on both local and foreign currency deposits from 17% to 26%. How do you view this move? Is it the continued difficulty in terms of resolving the economic issues in the country?
Yeah, I saw that, but economists being what they are, there are several schools of thought on an issue. When the central bank does that, they are reducing the flow of money in an economy. Now, why are they doing that? Because when there is a flow of a lot of it in an economy, it tends to push the prices up. It tends to push the economy, the inflation up. Now, inflation is something like when it's up. It's like how can I explain inflation? Inflation means that the prices of goods are going up, and they are going at a fast rate. So, if you buy bread today at 10 kwacha, tomorrow you can buy it at 11 kwacha, the other day you buy it at 12 kwacha. Now that is inflation. So it defines the rate at which prices are going up and the quantum involved. So when you say we are reducing inflation, what are we trying to do? We are not reducing the price, but we are reducing the rate at which the prices go up and the quantum involved. You can have a situation whereby if bread is 10 kwacha today, it's not 11 kwacha tomorrow. Maybe it will take a month and it will not go up to 11 kwacha. It may go back, it will make to 10 kwacha, 20 ngwe. Now, that means the inflation is low. Prices are not going up very quickly, and prices are not going in big chunks. Now, when you start doing that as a central bank, one of the things is that one which you are addressing. You are addressing the issue of inflation. Now, it depends on the school of thought where you belong to. Now, is the environment ready, or is this the thing to do in a current situation? Now, it depends on your school of thought as an economist. But what I've tried to explain is to say the major thing which is being addressed by increasing the reserve ratio is to get some money out of circulation, reduce the money into circulation, so that for you to get the money, you need to work for it. And when you get it, it will have some value. So it's not that you get 10 kwacha today, by the time you get it tomorrow, the price is 11 kwacha. the following day, you're trying to avoid that. So hence some of these measures. But for how effective it is and how you see that in the current environment is the best thing to do, it depends on your school of thought.
All right, well, viewers, we are discussing economic affairs, and in the studio this afternoon, I am hosting Mr. Lumba, who is Indeni Board Chairperson and is also an economist or a financial analyst, whichever way you may view it. Moving on also in terms of increment, I'll jump into the issue of fuel. As I zero into the issue of Indeni, we have seen that after 3 months of not increasing the prices of fuel, we have seen that the prices of fuel have been increased. You are with Indeni, you are the board chairperson of Indeni. How do you receive this increment of fuel?
Let's start at the economy of fuel. Let me say the economy of fuel pricing, or fuel increment, or fuel reduction. That's what we are concerned about. And the other thing, because we are saying when fuel is affected, there's an adjustment up. Other economic goods will be affected. They may go up. Now, what is happening now? First, we need to say in the pricing economy of fuel, there are two major ingredients, if we may say that. There is the dollar, the price of the dollar, and the price of fuel itself. We buy fuel in dollars, and we have no control over the price of fuel where we're buying. And then the other thing is, where is fuel coming from? And what are the impacts on fuel where we're getting from? What are the other external factors surrounding where we're getting the fuel from? If we get fuel from Angola, per se, and the road is good, we have very few factors affecting it when we have bought it. Now, where we're getting fuel, there are other factors apart from the price. First, we get fuel. Most of it is coming from the Middle East. And we know there is war in the Middle East. Israel is fighting Hamas. And there are countries which are sympathetic to Hamas. And they produce a lot of fuel. Now, how they react to the current war will have an impact on the fuel. Let me give you one thing which has happened in the recent past. Fuel passes through the Red Sea, and that stretch between the Middle East and Africa, where there is Yemen. Now, because the Americans are on the side of Israel, there are rebels in Yemen, which you have heard maybe on your news, I haven't watched your news, who are sending, who are shooting at the American vessels which are in that area. Now they are using drones. Drones are going at each other, the Americans and vessels. Now, that in itself has made that area where our fuel comes from a very dangerous spot. Now, what is happening? For vessels passing through that, they are paying a high premium on insurance. And those who are getting fuel in that region, they are paying a high premium, and they will pass on that price to the consumers. Now, we have no control whatsoever. Now, that's the side of where we're getting fuel. And then when it comes to the pricing, I've talked about one of the things which is affecting where we're getting fuel from. There's war there.
Yes.
There's drones crossing on each other, the Americans and the British hitting the Houthis in Yemen. And that makes that area very dangerous. And those guys the rebels, they don't respect life or goods. They will just hit on anything. That makes the place dangerous. Now that's on the side of the environment, which has added to the price of fuel. Let's come to the other side of it, price. Now we know that Russia and Ukraine have been at war, and Russia is one of major suppliers of fuel. They have been removed on the market because of the sanctions. So it means fuel from Russia has to be sold more like in a black market, hiding. Mm-hmm. Now we, as Zambia, we are a small a member of the international community. Now when there is sanction, we follow suit. We cannot get Russian fuel, even if it's cheap, because of the sanctions which are on Russia. And our economic system, and particularly the cash system, is based on the visa system and the SWIFT system of transferring money. So now you realize that we have, because one of the major supplier is out of the market, it means now, by the laws of supply and demand, there is more demand and the supply has been affected. So how does it affect the fuel? The price goes up. So already we have identified two things. Mm-hmm. The premium being paid on fuel, on the insurance, and the price. They are already pushing the price of fuel up. Mm-hmm. Then we have the dollar. Now the dollar is what we use to buy. We use kwacha. So for us to buy fuel, we need to get dollars. We exchange with our kwacha. Now, you and I know that the price of the dollar is going up. So that's another thing. Now we ask ourselves, why is the price of the dollar going up? What we are calling high exchange rates. Now, we know that for us to have a cheap dollar, we need to have a lot of dollars in the country. We need to have dollars in the country, a lot of them. Mm-hmm. How do we bring in a lot of dollars in the country? We have to export. What do we normally export? It's copper. Now, the copper mine being hit, we know first of all that our biggest copper mine was KCL. The previous government, I know people don't like talking about the previous government. The previous government put KCL under provisional liquidation. So it affected the production of copper. So we are not producing more. Mopani, which is another big mine we have, it was also impaired. It's like the assets of Mopani were not working. Why? Glencore, who owned the mine, pulled out, and there was an agreement with government that Glencore had the right to buy everything which is there. So even if Glencore pulled out, there was something which was there. Mopani was more restricted to some covenants agreed with Glencore in their going up. So
I think having established those factors, perhaps where they have been established at length, how is Indeni positioning itself? Historically, Indeni has been a buffer, especially to external shocks as regards to fuel pricing. How is the board positioning itself in this situation in terms of to cushion the country from these external forces?
First Indeni was a petroleum refinery. Mm-hmm. So it is to get commingled stuff. That's a combination of fuel, processed petrol, processed diesel, processed jet one, processed kerosene, and all other ingredients which will make H4 heavy fuels, and also some gas. Mm-hmm. So that was a combination of what it wasn't crude. It is something whereby petrol is added, processed petrol, they add them together. And then Indeni has been always a separator. So that combination, a compost of all this, mm-hmm. a combination of all these things, that liquid, pass through the Tazama pipeline. When it passes there, it's like you have got now your petrol. Then when it reaches Indeni, your petrol, your diesel, your kerosene, your jet A1 fuel are separated. That was what Indeni was doing.
So you were saying Indeni was never getting crude oil?
No, it doesn't have the capacity for crude oil.
Okay.
It was made, Indeni was made to be a separator. You know, it's like when it is, all those things are combined, they are able to come through the pipeline cheaper. So what you get there is you have petrol has arrived, diesel has arrived, paraffin has arrived, jet A1 fuel has arrived, some petroleum gas has arrived at the same time. Then that thing which has arrived is now separated into its original components. Now we have got a tank for petrol, a tank for diesel, a tank for kerosene, a tank for jet A1, a tank for kerosene and gas. They are all there at Indeni. Now, that thing is very expensive to buy. And for you to buy that, you need to have, you are buying a lot of it. Now, our economy is very small, so we are not buying a lot. It's more like you go to ShopRite. You don't have money to buy a bag of mealie meal. So your neighbor buys a bag of mealie meal and starts selling Pamela. So we are more like buying a Pamela of that thing, which was more expensive. And you and I agree that in a long run, a Pamela is more expensive than buying the whole bag of maize.
In light of lacking control, and like in light of lacking control on the source and all that in terms of fuel, my question again is Indeni positioning itself to save the country from?
I was trying to build up a story to where we are.
Okay.
So that's what Indeni was. Now government made a position, a police shift. Indeni should stop getting that commingled stuff and use the pipeline for diesel, and Indeni will turn into an OMC, an oil marketing company, like Puma, Mount Meru, and all others. So now that's what Indeni is now. But to get from a refinery to an OMC, it's a lot of work. So we needed to reorient staff. These were engineers who were working not in a commercial entity. So we needed to do a strategic plan. So it took us time to work out that, to be where we are. I'm coming to where we are and to answer the question. So you need to appreciate that.
All right.
Now, to cut the long story short, where are we? We have finished that. What do we have? How is Indeni relevant to the fuel economy? You need to appreciate that Indeni has the biggest tankerage in the country. So now,
maybe for the sake of the viewers, what do you mean when you say it as the biggest tankerage? Raymond may not understand. What do you mean?
I mean, Indeni has got the biggest storage in the company where we can store. We have more tanks where we can keep petrol, diesel, and other things. So we have more tanks than any other. Now, in the past until now, this February, Indeni has not been used. Indeni has not been using. So what we did, we started supplying to FQM. We got a contract with FQM. We participated in the tender, so we are doing that. Now Indeni has matured. And remember, some of the tanks we have, these we are storing a high sulfur diesel. Now the policy is we have to sell low sulfur diesel. So those tanks needed to be cleaned. And also, those tanks which were storing that commingled stuff needed to be cleaned. Also, the pipeline where that commingled stuff was passing needed to be cleaned. so that now we are able to use all these tanks and the pipes we have. So that was the process Indeni was going through. Now where we are now is some of those tanks have been cleaned, the pipeline part of it has been worked on. We are in a position now to accept finished products. We can store finished low sulfur diesel. We can have petrol. We can have paraffin. We can have jet A1 fuel in the Indeni tanks, because some of them they didn't need to be cleaned. Now that we are where we are, what else now? This February, the Ministry of Energy has given Indeni access to the pipeline. So at the end of this month, February, the diesel which will be on the market will be Indeni diesel, God willing, if we finish all the program. But we'll still be exposed as Indeni to some of those things I've already mentioned. But we are also mindful that we are a public company. We are not after maximizing profits. So once Indeni gets the equivalent dollar of what the price is now, we can see a slight movement. Right now, we have worked, the engineers and all the buyers, the people involved, they are telling us that the diesel, if the factors remain the same as they are, the diesel which Indeni will sell at the market, compared to the price today, it will be less by 15 way. You say it's small? Yes, it's small. But from what I said at first, there's a lot of things involved. Even that is because Indeni's profit margins will be very low. Excuse me. Indeni's profit margin will be very low. So therefore, because our margins will be very low, we're a public company, we have at every point share the profit with the consumers. We will not get 100% profits. So even the way we have worked out is where Indeni is sharing 50-50 with the consumers. Therefore, a liter of diesel, if the dollar doesn't depreciate, if the insurance premium don't go up, if the price of petrol or the price of petroleum products don't go up, Indeni will sell the diesel it will receive through the pipeline less 15 way. That's a very marginal thing. Even the profit for Indeni is very small, just to maintain, to enable it to pay some salaries of the people who are there.
Talking about storage, I want to get in terms of duration. For example, if the tanks are filled, to what duration when we get a stock, for instance, to supply the country, the storage?
Hence, Indeni comes in very strategic with your question. Like now, ERB is doing every month. Now, if all the tanks at Indeni are cleaned and everything remains equal, and with all other players on the market agree, we can push ERB to be doing quarterly, because the country will have enough fuel reserve to have a price which can cover for 3 months. At some point, strategically, we can buy and store, which we can use for 3 months. And that's why it's important that Indeni becomes full-fledged. We are still working out. We don't have, we are not given seed capital by government to do what we are doing. We are doing everything from the money we are generating, small amounts of money. That's why we can go on and immediately stock. Some tanks are still dirty. So even as I'm talking now, work is still going on of cleaning the tanks and cleaning the pipeline, the pipe, the sand pipes.
Okay.
So at the point when everything is done and there's cooperation, government managers in talking to, they manage who uses the pipeline and it's well scheduled, we can have fuel for 3 months in the country. And therefore we can have ERB, instead of them doing monthly adjustments, they can be doing quarterly adjustments. But that work is still ongoing.
All right, maybe perhaps before we move on, you are watching Camnet TV. This is the People's Verdict. I am Afias Kaptra, your host this afternoon, and in the studio I am having Indeni Board Chairperson, Mr. Watson Lumba. We are discussing economic affairs, a bit biased in terms of our discussion to the fuel subsector, of course, because it's coming from you can be part of this program by using the numbers on the screen. You can call in and throw in your questions as well as some of your views or concerns. Moving on, Mr. Lumba, there's an issue of you were in a process of ethanol branding. Maybe you can just give the nation in terms of the update of now how far you have gone with this process.
You see, government has put up a policy on ethanol blending, fuel blending. And by fuel blending, we are saying to petrol, we add some ethanol. Because all the same, the chemical combination does not affect the usage of that product. So now, because ethanol is believed can be cheaper, you combine it with a product, petrol, you can have a reduced average cost of a combined thing. Instead of having 100% petrol, you can have 50% petrol and you can have 50% ethanol. When you combine the two, it's as good as having 100% petrol. So now once you get to that, because the other half is cheaper than the other half, so you find you can reduce the price. If say I put in 5, you put in 10, we find that the price, remember if you put in a liter equal, the price will be 20. But if you put in a liter 50 of cheap and the other 50, well, find that the price will be 15. So that's the mechanism there. Now we haven't started that. Why? We have not installed the blending equipment. As I've said, now we're trying to first start supplying, look at the tanks. Once we finish that, we'll now look into blending. But you see, even with blending, we need a lot of ethanol. Now, our production in this country for ethanol is very low. So now we also need to encourage ethanol production. Those with ethanol, they want to hold on to it for other uses. For Indeni, when to be having access to ethanol, it's blending. To blend that ethanol with petrol, and as a result, you reduce the price of a liter of petrol. So that's the theory behind it. And we feel when we increase our capital position, we can go invest into blending equipment. But also now we also have to encourage ethanol production, because now we can have the equipment, but we don't have ethanol. So it will be useless. It will be a white elephant. So we would want to go into outgrown, maybe people growing cassava, or a lot of maize, or sugar, or millet, or those things which can produce ethanol. So we have to start now. But for now, we are concerned because of where we're coming from. We're concerned about getting the act of our tankerage up, and also we get used to this usage the new environment we are in with a huge competition, and we have a double role to play. One side we want to make a dividend. The other side we want to make a reserve for the country. That's the role of Indeni. On one side, it's a business to give the shareholders some dividend. On the other side, we have to store some petroleum products for the purpose of hedging. By hedging, I mean protecting ourselves. So if today we can buy more, it means once the dollar is up, we may make some savings because we bought for 3 months by the time it will be coming to that. So it's that kind of situation in which Indeni will play a role.
So maybe just in terms of positioning, in terms of storage, at what percentage are you in terms of working on the storage capacity?
Okay, look, right now we have got over 150 million, slightly above 150 million capacity. Now, if I say what do we have at the moment, I can say the engineers may correct me if they hear me or the what, but I must say we are above 80%. We should be storing something around close to 100 million a month if everything remains the same. That's a combination of the total of petrol liters plus the diesel liters. When you combine, it gives us that percentage.
Mr. Lumba, it's in the public domain that the change of operations at Indeni had brought in concerns from some sections of society in terms of detaining of jobs. The critics of the entire system have been saying, no, this one is going to curtail, it's going to cut down on employment. Many citizens were depending on Indeni for survival. Now this issue of bringing in finished products is going to bring doom. How is the employment situation? Are you employing as you are supposed to?
You see, first we need to say when we change position, Indeni stopped being Indeni Petroleum Refinery. It became a new name is Indeni Energy. So what government did, government paid all the workers their full package, full redundancy packages, which was very good. And the total figure for redundancy package was about 530 million, 530 plus million kwacha. With that, everyone was paid. So some went to do business, but also another line of staff was retained. Remember, we needed to maintain some engineers to maintain the assets, the infrastructure there, and also to keep it the security. And also, we are running a business. We needed also other professionals, particularly the accounting department remained intact, human resource department, but some workers, particularly those who were in refinery, because we are no longer in a refinery, we can't say we don't need them. Now what has happened is government has given us, we are in Tanshi Depot, the one in Lusaka. So that also increases our tankerage. But also, like I said at first, we need commercially minded people. So we will be employing commercial people. Now also with the blending and with this new COP28 which was there and the issue of climate change. So we are employing also some engineers to address those issues and to go and ask ourselves, how do we access the carbon credit? Or how do we reduce carbon emissions? And for that, we get paid. So now, that also requires people to work for Indeni. So we can say Yes, there could be people, particularly some engineers in the refinery, who would have lost their jobs. But there is also employment for other people, particularly like in market commercial enterprise of the business, so which was not part of Indeni in the first place. So it is a win-win situation. That's what I can say on that one.
All right. Moving on, we are looking at the economic situation, and also fuel being a key part of it. Future plans. We have seen that some other countries, in terms of storage, they keep fuel for many years. What are the strategic plans are the board in terms of you are putting in place to ensure that perhaps we move to massive storage of fuel?
You see, like I said at first, right now, we have a 3-year strategic plan. And within that 3-year strategic plan, this February is the first we are bringing in fuel to sell on the market. Now, it is on our interest, at the back of our mind. We have promised our shareholders that there are 2 things we'll give them. We'll give them a dividend, that's the money they get for investing in Indeni. And also, we are going to give them reserves. We are going to help the country with keeping some fuel reserves, and hence reducing the pricing of fuel by ERB going by every month. We can reduce the time maybe to once every 3 quarters. Sorry, every quarter, not every 3 quarters, every quarter. So now that in itself requires planning. Like I've already said, we are still in the process of finishing some tanks to where now they can hold finished products. But for diesel, we were producing high sulfur diesel. Now we have to produce low sulfur diesel. So we are putting all those things in plan. But of course also it is in our interest that we increase the tankerage. But also it's in our interest that we reduce carbon emissions by this petroleum. So therefore, we'll also be exploring other avenues. Maybe electric vehicles. Will indeed be interested to set up where you can recharge your fuel. You can recharge the battery of your vehicle. All those things are options which are open to us. Also, one of the things we also want to promote in the not far distant is the usage of gas for cooking. So we are going to a thing where the research is being done, or we're promoting research for people's behavior when it comes to gas. And so we are going to also be engaged quite a lot in packaging gas for cooking.
I think talking about gas, you have mentioned that you would want to take advantage of the drive for a green economy. Gas on the private market still remains a far-fetched, though researchers have established that gas is cheaper than charcoal. Just the drive of gas, especially in rural areas where the deforestation is taking place. Are you also considering in terms of that as a parastatal?
Yes. You see, one of the things which we are working on in the not far distant is that we get in touch with big suppliers of gas, and we also invest in the fleet to transport that gas. Those things we are thinking. Yes, we know that gas in the long run is cheaper than charcoal. So we need also to design some incentives, because we are a government company. We are not working to maximize profit for our shareholders, though that also comes as a byway. But we are supposed to serve the Zambian people without a subsidy. So, like, this government is working well that we don't subsidize things when we don't have money. So a subsidy works well when you're a rich company, like in Europe and in America, where they've got money to subsidize. A subsidy is an expense to the government. It doesn't help government in any way. But where it's developed, you've got a lot of money. It helps.
Oh yeah, I think we are coming to the end of the program. Though brief, but it has been awesome. I just want you to give us in terms of your closing remarks and also your assurances in terms of the fuel economy. Just perhaps something that you have already mentioned, just the people who are watching out there.
Another thing I want to show people that, look, we lost out on the mines. And now we have seen a surge where government has sorted out issues at KCM, they have sorted out issues at Mopani, and they have encouraged FQM and First Quantum to go into production. And just yesterday, the minister from Cape Town, the Minister of Mines, said we are now going to have a fourth company, big mine in the areas of Chilabombwe. Now, all these things, when they come up, they are going to help in the exchange rate. But to sweeten it more, to make it more even attractive for the dollar to continue its journey down when it starts, is that government have passed a statutory instrument to say, when you export, all your money has to come into Zambia. Now imagine these big mines are exporting, they are selling their copper outside, and the money comes into Zambia. Banks will be suffocated with dollars from these huge mines. And so therefore, in my closing remarks, there are good days ahead of us. From an economic point of view, I can say that. Even from an accounting point of view, I can say that. Because I see a situation where the dollar will come down. And coming down it will, unless government changes its policy. But with the current policy, and with the current policy of helping mines, we are in a position in the coming few months to raise the kwacha. And that in itself will affect all that we have talked about.
Mr. Lumba, thank you very much for having made time to come and be with us on the show. I have to appreciate you for making time. Well, viewers, we have come to the end of the show. I was discussing economic affairs with a bias on the fuel subsector with Indeni Board Chairperson, Mr. Watson Lumba. He has mentioned that the Indeni, which is now an oil marketing company, it's an OMC, they are working at ensuring that the country have stability in terms of fuel pricing by the Energy Regulation Board at least to 3 months. And more has been discussed. His ending words is an assurance in terms of the kwacha dropping with government policies and the life which is coming back into the mining sector. Till next time, this has been Afias Kaptula, present viewing Camnet TV, not just another channel. On behalf of Elijah Vita, bye-bye.